In the Soul Queen's shadow, when Freddie Mercury chased his dream, November 1983, New York City glittered beneath a cold autumn sky, and Freddie Mercury stood alone in his suite at the Plaza Hotel, staring at a handwritten note he'd rewritten 17 times. His hands trembled, not from cold, but from something far deeper. In 3 hours, he would do something that terrified him more than any stadium performance ever had. He was going to crash Aretha Franklin's private concert, and if security didn't throw him out first, he was going to make the Queen of Soul understand why he'd spent an entire week stalking her through Manhattan like a lovesick teenager. But to understand why one of the world's biggest rock stars was about to risk public humiliation for a woman who'd already rejected him 5 times. You need to know where this obsession really began. Farouk Bulsara sat alone in a cafe near Ealing Art College, trying to disappear. He'd gotten good at disappearing. When you're a Parsi immigrant with an accent that marks you as foreign, with teeth that people mock, with desires you can't name but know would destroy you if anyone discovered them, disappearing becomes survival. Then I Say a Little Prayer played on the radio. Everything stopped. The cigarette smoke hanging in the air, the chatter of art students debating Warhol, the rattle of coffee cups, all of it dissolved when Aretha Franklin's voice cut through like a diamond blade wrapped in honey. The moment I wake up before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you. Farouk's pencil froze mid-sketch. His throat tightened. Something was happening inside his chest. Something that felt like drowning and flying at the same time. This wasn't just singing. This was a woman taking every ounce of pain, every moment of being underestimated, every second of being told she wasn't enough, and transforming it into something so powerful that the whole world had no choice but to bow down. She sang like vulnerability was a weapon, like showing your scars was how you won wars. "Who is that?" Farouk asked the girl behind the counter, his voice barely above a whisper. She stared at him like he'd asked who the Queen of England was. "That's Aretha Franklin. You seriously don't know Aretha Franklin?" He bought every album Mosfam he could afford that week, played them until the vinyl wore thin, and somewhere between Respect and Chain of Fools, Farouk Bulsara began to understand something that would change his life forever. You don't have to hide who you are. You can take all that differentness, all that pain, all that being too much and not enough at the same time, and you can turn it into something so beautiful that people will pay money just to feel what you feel. That's what Aretha had done. That's what Freddie Mercury was going to do. Fast forward 17 years. Freddie Mercury had conquered the world. Queen had redefined rock music. Bohemian Rhapsody had proven that opera and rock could have a baby and that baby could rule the charts. He'd performed for hundreds of thousands, made royalty bow, turned his differentness into his greatest strength. But there was one dream, one obsession that haunted him. He wanted to sing with Aretha Franklin. Not as a publicity stunt, not as some manufactured collaboration engineered by record executives chasing a hit. He wanted to stand next to the woman who'd taught him that courage sounded like 4 octaves of unfiltered truth, and he wanted to create something that honored what she'd given him. He'd tried before, multiple times, through managers, through industry contacts, through mutual friends. Every attempt hit the same polite wall. "Miss Franklin's schedule is quite full at the moment. We'll certainly pass along your message." Then silence. Always silence. But this time was different. This time, Freddie discovered that Aretha was performing a rare, intimate show at Small's Paradise in Harlem. Only 200 seats. The kind of performance where you could see the sweat, feel the breath, connect in a way that stadiums never allowed. And this time, Freddie Mercury made a decision that would either become the most beautiful moment of his life or the most humiliating. He was going to that show. And he was going to make Aretha Franklin see him. "Mr. Mercury, this is..." His assistant, Marie, paused, searching for diplomatic words as she surveyed the Plaza Hotel suite, which now resembled a botanical garden that had exploded in a perfume factory. "This is a lot of flowers. Roses. Hundreds of them. All white because Aretha had once mentioned in a 1972 interview, an interview that Freddie had memorized like scripture, that white roses reminded her of church, of gospel, of where her voice was born." "Is it too much?" Freddie asked, genuinely uncertain. For all his stage bravado, For all his confident sexuality and theatrical excess, this moment made him feel like a nervous teenager sending flowers to his first crush. Marie, a practical Brooklyn woman who'd seen every excess the music industry could produce, looked at Freddie's face, really looked at it, and saw something that made her heart crack open a little. This wasn't rock star ego. This was pure, vulnerable longing. Honey, she said gently, it's perfect, but she might think you're crazy. Freddie smiled, and it was the saddest smile Marie had ever seen. Good. Crazy is memorable. Crazy means she won't forget. Along with the flowers, Freddie included a cassette tape. On it was a song he'd written specifically for Aretha, a duet that wove together rock and soul, operatic grandeur, and gospel rawness. He'd spent 3 weeks on this composition, pouring everything he'd learned from 17 years of listening to her into every note. The bridge featured a vocal run he'd designed specifically for her voice, a run that would sound wrong in anyone else's mouth but would fit Aretha's instrument like it had been built for her specifically. And the note he'd rewritten 17 times, trying to find words adequate for what she meant to him. Dear Aretha, when I was small, I only sang in choirs, hiding behind other voices because I thought mine wasn't enough. Then I heard you sing Natural Woman, and everything changed. You taught me that we don't have voices to hide with, we have voices to be found with. You showed me that being different wasn't weakness. It was the whole point. You taught me that the most beautiful music comes from the courage to be completely, impossibly yourself, even when the world tells you that's the most dangerous thing you could possibly be. I'm not asking as Freddie Mercury, rock star. I'm asking as Farouk Bulsara, the terrified kid who learned how to be brave by listening to you transform pain into power. I wrote this song for us, not for radio, not for charts, just for two souls who understand what it means to turn suffering into something people can't look away from. Would you sing with me? Just once. Just so I can tell that scared kid in the London cafe that his hero saw him. Really saw him. Your eternal student, Freddie. He sent it all to Aretha's hotel with explicit instructions. Deliver it directly to her. Not to her manager, not to her assistant. To her. Then he waited. 2 days of silence. Freddie didn't sleep. He paced his suite like a caged animal, smoking cigarette after cigarette, staring at the phone like he could will it to ring through sheer desperation. His bandmates called, his managers called. Everyone wanted to know why he canceled 2 days of meetings and was acting like a man waiting for medical test results. He didn't tell them. He couldn't. How do you explain to successful, confident rock musicians that you're falling apart because a woman you've never actually met hasn't called you back? On the third day the phone rang. Freddie lunged for it so fast he knocked over an ashtray, scattering cigarette butts across the hotel carpet. Yes? Hello? Mr. Mercury? The voice was female, professional, with an edge that suggested this woman had dealt with every hustler, hanger-on, and wannabe collaborator the music industry could produce. This is Ruth Bowen. I'm Miss Franklin's manager. Freddie's heart stopped beating. He was sure of it. Medical impossibility or not, his heart had stopped. Did she? His voice cracked. He cleared his throat, tried again. Did she listen to the song? Mr. Mercury. Ruth's voice wasn't unkind, but it carried the weight of bad news delivered professionally. Miss Franklin received your flowers. She received your note. She was touched. Touched. That word hung in the air like an execution notice. But, Ruth continued, and that single word contained universes of disappointment, Miss Franklin isn't looking to collaborate at this time. She hopes you'll understand. She values her artistic independence very highly, and she doesn't do collaborations unless the spirit genuinely moves her. The floor disappeared beneath Freddie's feet. The walls of the Plaza Hotel suite seemed to be closing in, squeezing all the air out of the room. Did she listen to it? Freddie asked again, and he hated how small his voice sounded. How desperate. The song, did she actually listen? A pause. In that pause, Freddie heard 17 years of hero worship dying a slow death. I honestly don't know, Mr. Mercury, Ruth said, and there was genuine sympathy in her voice now. But I do know that Miss Franklin gets approached for collaborations constantly. Constantly. Everyone wants a piece of her genius. Everyone thinks their project is the special one, the one she should say yes to. I'm not everyone. Freddie whispered. I know, Ruth said quietly. That's why I'm calling you myself instead of having my assistant send a form letter. But Mr. Mercury, you need to let this go. Move on. Miss Franklin has made her decision. Please. Freddie was begging now, all pretense of rock star cool completely abandoned. Please, just tell her I'm not asking as Freddie Mercury. I'm asking as Farouk, the kid who learned how to survive by listening to her voice. Tell her that when the world made me feel like being different was a death sentence, her music taught me it could be a superpower. Tell her, Mr. Mercury. Ruth cut him off, but gently. I'll tell her. I promise I'll tell her exactly what you said. But don't get your hopes up, please, for your own sake. The line went dead. Freddie stood holding the phone for a long moment, staring at nothing. Then very carefully he set it back in its cradle. Marie, who'd been standing in the doorway, watching her boss transform from confident rock god to heartbroken child, asked quietly, "What are you going to do?" Freddie looked at her, and something in his eyes made Marie take a step back. It wasn't anger. It wasn't resignation. It was pure, crystallized determination. I'm going to the concert, he said, and I'm going to make her see me. Small's Paradise in Harlem. Friday night. The line outside stretched around the block. 200 lucky souls with tickets to see Aretha Franklin perform in a venue so intimate you could count the sequins on her dress. Freddie Mercury was not one of those lucky souls. He didn't have a ticket, hadn't even tried to get one through official channels because he knew what would happen. Recognition, special treatment, the whole rock star apparatus that would create exactly the wrong kind of attention. Tonight, he needed to be invisible. Tonight, he needed to disappear. He dressed carefully, simple black turtleneck, black jeans, sunglasses even though it was night, a hat pulled low over his distinctive hair. He looked like any other Aretha devotee hoping to catch magic. The bouncer at the door was a mountain of a man named Marcus who'd been working Harlem venues for 20 years. He'd seen everything. Musicians trying to sneak in, celebrities demanding special treatment, hustlers with fake tickets. But he'd never seen someone trying as hard to be unremarkable as the man in the black turtleneck. Ticket? Marcus asked, already knowing the answer. I don't have one, Freddie said honestly. His accent gave him away immediately. British, educated, definitely not from the neighborhood. But I need to be in that room tonight. I need to. Marcus had heard every sob story, every desperate plea, every reason why someone should get special treatment. So does everyone else in this line, brother. No ticket, no entry. That's how it works. Freddie looked up at Marcus, and even through the sunglasses, Marcus could see something in this stranger's eyes that made him pause. Not entitlement, not rock star arrogance. Raw, desperate longing, the kind that comes from the soul. I'll stand in the back, Freddie said quietly. I won't make a sound. I won't bother anyone. I just need to be in the room when she sings. Please, I've waited 17 years for this. Marcus was about to say no, about to deliver the same professional rejection he'd given 1,000 times, when something made him look closer at the man in the black turtleneck. There was something familiar about that jawline, about the way he held himself, even while trying to be invisible. Holy shit, Marcus whispered. You're Freddie Mercury. Freddie closed his eyes. Cover blown. Please, he said again, don't make a thing of it. I'm not here as Freddie Mercury. I'm just a fan. That's all. Just a fan who needs to hear her sing. Marcus stared at him for a long moment. In that moment, something unprecedented happened in the long history of Small's Paradise security. Marcus stepped aside. Back corner, he said quietly. Stay invisible. If anyone makes you, I'm telling them you snuck past me while I was distracted. Deal? Deal, Freddie breathed. He slipped inside like a ghost. The room was packed, humid with body heat and anticipation. Freddie found his spot in the back corner, pressed against the wall, barely breathing. From here, he could see everything. The stage bathed in amber light, the piano waiting like a sacred altar, the microphone that would soon transmit the voice that had saved his life 17 years ago. His heart hammered against his ribs. What was he doing here? Freddie Mercury didn't sneak into concerts. Freddie Mercury didn't hide in corners wearing disguises. Freddie Mercury commanded stages, owned rooms, made thousands bow to his presence. But tonight he wasn't Freddie Mercury. Tonight he was just Farouk again, the scared kid, the one who needed saving. The lights dimmed. The crowd's murmur rose to a roar that shook the walls of Small's paradise. 200 people held their breath as one, and then she walked on stage. Aretha Franklin. She wore a simple but elegant dress that caught the spotlight like liquid gold. No theatrics, no rock star excess, just pure, undeniable being. Her presence filled the small venue so completely that the air itself seemed to vibrate with her energy. She sat at the piano. Her fingers touched the keys like greeting old friends, gentle, reverent, loving. "Good evening," she said, and her speaking voice alone made the room go silent. Not the forced silence of an audience waiting politely, but the sacred silence of people in the presence of something holy. "Thank you for being here tonight." Then she began to play. What happened over the next 90 minutes was something Freddie would remember for the rest of his life. Not because it was different from her recordings, not because she did anything unexpected or pulled out some surprise cover that no one had heard before, but because it was real, because in this small room, without the distance of stadium sound systems or radio static, without the barrier of vinyl or tape, he could finally, truly hear what she was doing with every note, every breath, every deliberate choice. Every vocal run wasn't just technical perfection designed to show off her 4-octave range. It was emotional storytelling. Each note contained chapters of human experience, joy and pain and defiance and surrender, all wrapped together in sound that bypassed the brain and went straight to the soul. Every held note wasn't just demonstrating her lung capacity. It was her daring you to feel something you'd been trying not to feel, forcing you to confront emotions you'd buried, making you see yourself in her voice. Every moment of restraint, those whispered phrases that made you lean forward, was as powerful as every moment of explosion. Every moment of vulnerability wrapped in power was intentional, calculated, art in its purest form. Freddie felt tears streaming down his face and didn't care. Around him, 200 people were having the same religious experience. Some cried openly, some shouted encouragement. "Yes, Queen, sing it, Aretha." Some sat in stunned silence, barely breathing, afraid that even the sound of their own breath might break the spell. This was church, real church. The kind where transformation happens, where you walk in as one person and walk out as someone different, someone better, someone braver. During Natural Woman, something happened that Freddie hadn't planned for, something that would haunt and heal him for the rest of his life. Aretha paused mid-verse. She looked out at the audience, really looked, and her eyes swept across the room like a lighthouse beam searching for lost ships, across the crying faces, the enraptured silence, the pure, unconditional love radiating from every single person packed into Small's paradise. And then her eyes landed on the back corner, on a man in a black turtleneck and sunglasses, tears streaming down his face, looking at her like she was made of starlight and salvation. For 3 seconds, that felt like 3 years, their eyes held across the crowded room. And Aretha Franklin knew exactly who he was. Her lips curved into the smallest smile, so brief that if you blinked, you'd miss it. A smile that said, "I see you, I know why you're here, I know what you need." Then she continued singing, but something had shifted. The rest of that song felt like she was singing directly to him. To the scared kid who'd first heard her voice in a London cafe, to the immigrant boy who thought being different was a death sentence, to the artist who'd transformed pain into power because she'd shown him it was possible. When the final note faded, Freddie couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything except stand there with tears on his face and the absolute certainty that his life had just changed forever.